Hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. No one can make you look bad unless you allow them to. Today on rSpace, a cheater puts a lot more than just overtime at work. Boyfriend tells me to get over it. Hi, I'm writing to share my story of my cheating boyfriend. Sorry for the long post in advance. My boyfriend Dave and I started dating when we were about 15 years old. You can say we were high school sweethearts. In the year 2016, I helped him land a new warehouse job. Due to a higher increase in pay, we were all so excited for him to start. We celebrated by taking our 2-year-old to Disneyland. At the time, I didn't know what was about to come. Dave finally started his job, and 2 months in, he starts to behave differently with me. This is when I started to get a gut feeling inside of me. He started snapping at me for the most littlest of things. He stopped talking to me about work. Intimacy went from 4 times a week to him demanding it every day. It was around our anniversary in February when we were arguing through text when I asked him if there was someone else. He responded yes. My heart sank. The pain I felt. I never felt that pain in my life. It is not a pain I would wish on anyone. I called him. Voicemail. I called him again. Voicemail again. He texted me that he needed to go to work and could not talk. I went crazy. I felt weak, lightheaded. My heart and throat felt like it was going to explode. I couldn't pinpoint where I went wrong. The weekend came along and it was February 14th. We talked. He swore nothing ever happened between them. His feelings were intense and it wasn't planned, but he did not want to break up. I felt betrayed, hurt. I asked him to stop talking to her, move departments. He said he can't stop talking to her. They work together. In my mind, I wondered, how can someone not stop talking to someone else? I told him I understood it's work, but he could unfriend her and only talk to her when he needed. He refused. I continued berating him, telling him if he does not stop talking to her, he loses me. He finally obliged. Months passed and I am still hurt by the situation, but for some reason there was still a feeling deep in me that told me he was still talking to her. I brushed that feeling aside because of how in love I was with this man. Come the end of the year, I was transferred to the same workplace as my boyfriend. I didn't tell him. I waited until the week of my first day came. He was shocked. He didn't understand why I was being transferred to this building. Red flag number 1. He asked me to ask to move elsewhere. When I asked why it was so bad to be in the same workplace, he said there wasn't anything wrong with it. I probably would not like being there. I told him I was fine. I had no issue, and left it as that. My first day at the job, I meet amazing people. I had fun. I enjoy being around people. It was lunchtime. My friend and I find a table and sit and enjoy our lunch when I see my boyfriend come in. He and his friend sit at the same table next to us. Picture this. There are 2 seats to his left, vacant. I am on his right. His friend and my friend are facing us on the other side of the table. He introduces me to his friend. We then are talking about my first day when I get this feeling. It's weird. I look up and there is this female walking by around our table. She takes her seat to the left of my boyfriend. My heart sank as I felt my boyfriend tense up. I somehow knew it was her. He did not introduce me to her. Edit. There is more to the story. Not sure if anyone would like to read more. Oh boy, yeah, well, it was sort of expected that whatever thing they had going on was going to, in fact, continue because they were working together. Honestly, if he had really cared about you and attempted to pick up the pieces of what he broke, he would have quit that job. It wouldn't have mattered if it was a higher increase in pay or not. A loyal partner is priceless. Part 2. I want to say thank you to those who are interested in my story. All this happened a couple years ago, so there is a resolution to it. I posted my story in 2 parts, so it won't be so long. Here's the rest of my story. For context, my boyfriend's name is Dave. The other female, we will call her Mary. As she, Mary, made her way to the seat next to my boyfriend, I felt my boyfriend tense up. I somehow knew she was the other one. I looked at my boyfriend and asked him to scoot closer to me. He does. My friend, who I met the first day, looks at Mary, then my boyfriend, then at me. She gives me a questionable look. I shrug my shoulders, expressing that I don't know. Once lunch was over, everyone but my boyfriend and I leave. I could remember thinking, how can I ask him without starting a fight? And why didn't he introduce me? Again, I let it go. I know what you're thinking. How naive of her. And you're right. He was my high school sweetheart. First love. I wasn't ready to know yet. I wasn't ready to go through the pain again. While we worked in the same building, we were in separate departments. We met for lunch occasionally. First couple times I noticed Mary sitting by my boyfriend at lunch. They sat touching elbow to elbow, laughing. I could see it in his eyes. I dismissed it again. As I walk in, she would see me and excuse herself. Mary started sitting on her own for lunch after the 4th day. That gave me some peace. Made me think if I was overthinking. Mary is pretty, I thought, but we were significantly different in looks and body. I thought to myself, maybe I was overreacting. It can't be here. The more I worked, the more I started to meet more people. People in higher positions. They started training me as they saw my work ethic. High. I was always willing to try something new. I was trained in 2 departments before I ended up in a department next to my boyfriend's. It was an open layout, so I was able to see all of his department as he can see all of mine. One day I was working on moving boxes off the conveyor down to a pallet and cage. When I look up, I see my boyfriend helping a female out. An overwhelming feeling of anxiety came towards me. My male friend, Mateo, also looked in that direction I was looking. He tells me, "That doesn't seem like nothing." My heart was beating as fast as I watched my boyfriend's interaction with Mary. He is helping her lift boxes, throw her trash away, laughing and slightly bumping into each other. I smiled and responded, "I'm sure it's nothing." That was the first time I encountered their behavior without them knowing I was around. I went home wondering if I should bring it up. I wasn't okay. I was mentally messed up. I cried out. I didn't know if my suspicions was right. I decided to ask him the next day who was the girl he fell for. Next day came. He was driving us to work that day. I turned to him and asked him, "So will you ever show me who the girl you fell for is?" He gave me a puzzled look and said no. I reminded him that he promised me they wouldn't have contact to each other. So why couldn't I know? He responded telling me it was unnecessary to bring it up. She doesn't know that I know. He didn't want me to make her feel uncomfortable. I asked him if she still worked there. He didn't respond. The silence gave me my answer. I then asked him if she knew about how he felt for her. He said, nonchalantly, "Of course, I told her." I asked him why would he tell her, and he responded with, she was asking why he was so upset, so he told her he was confused about his feelings for her. He didn't confirm if she reciprocated his feelings. I was broken again. As the days go by, I start meeting more people in my new department. As I introduce myself to them, the typical questions come through, like how old are you single, married, did you go to school, are you going to school, etc. Typical conversation starters for a warehouse job. When I was asked if I was single, I would always respond that I have a boyfriend. Their next question would be, what does he do? I would let them know that he works here. Mind you, this warehouse was open for about a year or so before I started working there. A lot of workers knew each other. This is an important piece of information. A lot of the times they would ask me who my boyfriend was, and I happily showed them. And every time I did, they responded, "Oh, he's your boyfriend?" I was always scared to ask the next question, but I'm glad I did. "Yes, he is. Why?" I responded. They would chuckle nervously and say, "No reason. I just thought he was with someone else." Every time I pushed forward to know who they were referring to, they would say it was someone who worked in his department. I felt it was a joke. I was here working and yet I looked like a fool. To everyone here. Everyone knew and I didn't. I'll be posting a part 3. I didn't want to break the story apart, but it was quite long. My apologies. Part 3 will be about me discovering who the other woman is and what happened. Wow. The balls on this guy to actually continue to flirt with her and interact with her while you're working in the same building. That's a new level of disrespect. And not only that, but to tell you that bringing her up is unnecessary because he didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable? Excuse me? Why would you stay with someone who spoke to you and admitted things like this to you, OP? High school sweethearts mean nothing when it comes down to this. It doesn't matter how long you've been together with someone once they choose someone else over you. He's making you look like a fool in your own place of work. Part 3. Sorry for the delays. For some reason my posts are showing as deleted. Hopefully this one's the one. For context, my boyfriend's name is Dave. The other female, we will call her Mary. One day I was leaving and I went to my boyfriend's department to grab him and go. As I got to him, he was in deep conversation with Mary. He does not look at me once, nor acknowledges me. Mary looks my way and signals him with her head that I was there. He looks at me and asks why I was here. I told him it was time to go, and since he was on the way, I thought we could walk together. He looks at the time and says we have 5 minutes more. Then, he returns to his conversation with her. I feel like an idiot. Mary looked at me and decided to introduce herself. "Hi, I'm Mary. I don't think Dave has introduced us," she says. I look at Dave and respond, "Yeah, I don't know why he hasn't." I then introduce myself when Dave interrupts saying he never had us together to introduce us. He apologizes and says his goodbyes to Mary. I didn't know how to take this. He had us together on my first day. He didn't introduce us. I wanted to ask him if it was her, but what if it wasn't? He will get mad that I didn't get over the entire "there's someone else" situation and leave me with our 2-year-old. I was scared. He worked with her very frequently, and it bothered me. The offer came out of the blue to be trained in his department. I wasn't sure if it was a good idea, but I thought, why not? I was trained and I loved it there. The entire department was incredibly fun to be in. The people were feisty, but very uplifting. I used to question why my boyfriend would keep going to Mary for job-related things. He would always tell me she is in charge of what goes out of the workers. I met another person who did the same task as Mary. Her name is Liz. Liz informed me that Mary was her backup, but she needed another person. I asked what her job consisted of, and it was fairly interesting to me, so I offered to be her other backup. It was fun and I loved it. I started to see Mary less and less the longer I was there. She started working in another department, and every time Mary would come around, my boyfriend would flirt with her. Our arguments went from once in a blue moon to an everyday thing. I was very uncomfortable with his and her behavior towards each other. He always said I was overreacting, that I needed to get over the issue. They're friends, and I need to be okay with that. We were arguing on the way to work, and I couldn't stop crying. Tears would occasionally fall out while I was working. On this particular day, I was in a different department, hidden from most of the people there. It was me and another coworker. He would do his best to have me open up to him. I decided why not. I told him why I was upset, and thankfully I did because what he told me changed everything for me. He confirmed everything. He was into Mary, but Mary did not give him the time of day. My boyfriend even intervened in his chance to talk to her by telling him to keep his distance from her. That was it for me. There wasn't any going back. On the way home, I was silent. My boyfriend tried making conversation. I responded with or mm-hmm. That night, we were laying in bed. He was falling asleep and I woke him. "Hey babe," I said. "Yeah?" he responded. "Is it Mary, the one you swore you weren't talking to?" I asked. The silence felt like eternity. "Yes, I'm going to sleep." I told him no. We needed to talk about it. He refused. He told me to let it go. That was his favorite phrase, let it go. It hurt. He ripped the Band-Aid that I closed up with his lies. I begged him to talk to me, and he refused, saying if I can't let it go, he's leaving me. I asked if he was being honest because I couldn't completely trust him anymore. He said they had intimacy, and he broke up with me. My world ended. I cried for days and couldn't be myself without breaking apart. I asked him not to tell her anything until I was ready to tell the world we were over. The next day at work, I was stuck in his department. I was sent to deliver some materials to Mary's department. I did. As I was walking back, Mary came up to me. Smiling, she asked how I am. I let her know I'm doing fine. At this rate, I'm trying to keep my cool. The next question out of her mouth angers me. "How are you and Dave doing?" she asks. I know she knows. He told her. I can feel it in my bones. "Oh, we broke up," I say. "Oh no, why?" "Because of you," I respond. "I didn't mean for anything to happen. I'm sorry. Nothing happened. He's just a friend. That's all we are." "You couldn't stop talking to him?" I ask. "No, we work together and we are friends," she says. I see my boyfriend as we walk back to my department. He looks scared. I walked by him back to my area and he stopped to talk to Mary. I didn't care what they had to say to each other. I hated him. I hated her. I'll end my story here. In the end, I begged him to get back together. In the moment, that's all I ever wanted, to keep our family together, to go back to how we were once. I wanted us to be okay again. I have no idea what happened between him and Mary during our separation. He swore he did not want to look like a jerk and jump into a relationship with her. I don't know what the truth is. I hate him. Still did when we got back together. I have never felt so low in my life. I asked him to choose his friendship with Mary or he can be with me and co-parent our kid. Instead of ending his friendship by telling her, he chose to quit. What a coward. A couple of months later, I ended up pregnant again. But that was the plan. We wanted to give my first child a sibling, so we agreed to have one more. I remember on Mary's last day, we were working together, not by choice. We were civil towards each other, but did not speak unless needed to. She asked me for help with some boxes. I responded I can't lift these boxes. She said we could lift them together. I responded that I couldn't because I was pregnant. She looked surprised and gave me an obvious fake-sounding congratulations. I responded, yep, and walked away. Now you may ask if my boyfriend and I are still together. No. Do I still hate him? No. Do I blame Mary? No. But it would have been nice if she was a girl's girl. Do I believe Mary or Dave about nothing happening or yes, they were intimate? I don't know. I will never know. Trust was broken. Thank you for reading my story. I was naive for a really long time. No one deserves to be cheated on. It's sad that there are people out there who, instead of leaving their partner, decide to cheat. I'm sorry for anyone going through this. It scars you and changes you. I still, to this day, have trust issues, but I am working through it. Now for a couple community comments. How was Dave as a co-parent? DOP replies, honestly, it was hard in the beginning. We fought a lot, but as the months went by, we slowly started coming into terms that we don't and can't keep fighting, especially with kids. Anyways, he's coming through. I love how he is with the kids, and if I need any help on my days due to work, he's always down to help me. Someone else asked, is Dave with Mary now? The OP replies, no, they didn't end up together. From what I know, when Dave quit, he cut off some communication with her and everyone from work. Oh, OP, your relationship with Dave ended long before you were trying to beg for it to stay together. Not only that, but he completely humiliated you. I feel like you may still be a little naive about what happened. And yes, it's sad that there's people out there who cheat instead of leaving their partner. But what's also sad is there's people who decide to stay with their partner who cheat on them right in front of their face, and they have to witness it every day at work. What do you make of all this? Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.